Okay.
There we go.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Jane Velez Mitchell, and I'm very excited to be here today. I want to talk about creating a vegan world by 2026. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a journalist and author, born in Manhattan, went to NYU, worked in the mainstream media for 40 years. Pretty much 40 years, yes, from 1977 until, late 2014, but still doing interviews. So I decided eventually to use my journalistic skills to start my own nonprofit news media outlet called Jane Unchained. And I think we can show that as I talk about it. And Jane Unchained is not just me. It's a collection of more than 70 volunteer journalists from around the world who put together incredible videos. They go live at animal rights protests. We do a daily vegan cooking show called Lunch Break Live. Has incredible vegan recipes. We also, there's Tanya. I think she's getting married today or yesterday. She's one of our amazing chefs. We've got really some really incredible content. And we just did a summit asking Kamala Harris to go plant-based for the planet. And we also go live. In fact, I just went live with Animal Outlook. Animal Outlook is an incredible organization that really works to protect animals, and they were featured in the New York Times, but we were unhappy with how the story, or I could say I was unhappy with how the story turned out. I felt like the New York Times article slanted toward dairy, so we did an interview with them, and we essentially called it out. We called out the coverage. So we can get rid of this, and we can just talk a little bit about Jane Unchained and what our mission's all about. So again, I'm a journalist. I worked in mainstream media for approximately 4 decades, and then turned out to use my skills to spread the word about the imperative to create a vegan world. Now, as part of that, I visited a lot of sanctuaries. We go live all over the place: protests, sanctuaries, galas, veg fests, animal rights conferences. We just going live all the time and then turning it into stories that we put on the Jane Unchained website. So I was at the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. Here's my Rowdy Girl Sanctuary coffee cup. I'm on the board of Rowdy Girl Sanctuary as well, in Texas. And they were having a festival, and this guy got on stage. And I think I was pretty much the only person listening to him, because it was a big festival and there was a lot of food, vegan food and shopping, and everybody's having a great time. And this guy gets on stage and he says, I was live with my cell phone camera. He says, well, we're going to create a vegan world, and we're going to do it by 2026. Wow. Whoa. It's the first time I'd ever heard anybody articulate a goal in our movement clearly with specificity. He said, we know why we have to create a vegan world. We know when we have to do it, by 2026, or we're going to have an ecological apocalypse. That's the date at which we will have destroyed all the wildlife vertebrates on the planet. That's the trajectory we're heading toward. And all we need to figure out is how. And I'm a systems analyst and an engineer. I'm not. He was saying that. He described the fact that he was instrumental in the acceleration of internet speeds as an engineer and systems analyst. And his name is Dr. Silas Rao. I was blown away by this. When I heard him, I was like, that's the guy. This is the articulation of our mission. And he said, look, I look at it as an engineering project. We're going to break it down. We're going to do it exactly the same way we accelerated internet speeds, the way that we got people on the moon. We're going to take a big problem. We're going to break it down into the many questions, challenges. He didn't say problems. He said questions, which I thought was good. We're going to answer those questions, and then we'll have the infrastructure. So Jane Unchained ended up doing a documentary on Dr. Silas Rao called Countdown to Year Zero, which is streaming on Amazon Prime. I urge everybody to watch it. Watch it before it's too late. That's the tagline. This is a little beaten up because I mentioned it so many times. I'll have to get a fresher one. But yeah, Countdown to Year Zero focuses on the work of Dr. Silas Rao. And Jane Unchained News Network, our 501c3 nonprofit, works very closely with Dr. Rao. He has a show on the Jane Unchained Facebook page. And we do everything we can to help him achieve this vision. And it's a team effort. So I would urge everybody to get involved with Climate Healers. And I'll see if I can share Climate Healers right now and go up to the tab that has Climate Healers. And you can see that if I share this, this is the Climate Healers website. Animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change, a Climate Healers position paper. Now, you're probably thinking, wait a second, the leading cause? I've heard many different descriptions. I've heard, 18.1%. Then I heard two economists say 51%, but I've never heard the leading cause. Well, he has written a position paper that outlines that it is the leading cause of climate change. Okay? Responsible for approximately 87% of greenhouse gas emissions. And I'm very proud to say, actually, that this white paper was a result of a live interview that we were doing on Jane Unchained with Dr. Rao. After going to a few climate marches in downtown LA, where the issue of animal agriculture never came into the equation, where they just talked about fossil fuels, and they didn't talk about animal agriculture's impact on climate change, I was quite despondent. Actually, it was one of the worst days, honestly, of my life. I was like, got into arguments with people. I was shouted down. I was like, come on, and climate change and animal agriculture has a role in it. Talk about that. And I was told literally, you be quiet. So I know I was down because I went to Veggie Grill. This is prior to the COVID situation. And I was too upset to eat anything at Veggie Grill. Sure sign that I was despondent. So I went home and as I usually do, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, and we were doing an interview a couple of days later with Dr. Rao. And I said, Dr. Rao, until we really prove that this is the leading destructive force when it comes to climate change, they're not going to pay attention because they're underestimating it in the mainstream media. They're saying 18.1, then recently it dropped down to 14.5. And he said, I've been waiting for somebody to do that, but I'm perfectly positioned to do it. I'll do it. And because I believe he is a genius, he did it. And he produced this white paper. And it was just covered by Plant-Based News. I'm going to give a shout out to Plant-Based News for covering it. And I hope that other news organizations start covering it. I'd love to see it in The Guardian. I'd love to see The Intercept cover it. I'd love to see the New York Times cover it. He is willing to debate anyone, anytime. He has links to the facts that support his argument. And his basic argument is that the United Nations food scientists who have ties to the animal agriculture industry, in inputting the information that they use to come up with what percentage of climate change is caused by animal agriculture, miscalculated methane, which is produced by animals, and they underestimate the impact of methane. And basically, we actually went to Phoenix, where Dr. Rao is headquartered, and had a huge summit about this and talked about it. And finally, there was a kindergarten teacher who said, because he was talking way above our heads, and she said, I think I can explain it to the group. And she got up and she explained it to the group. And in essence, she said, methane disintegrates after about a decade into something less toxic. But the way the United Nations measures methane is over the course of 100 years. So what she said was, it's like eating an entire chocolate cake in one day and measuring the impact it would have on your body over 100 years, when you should be measuring it in a shorter time frame. So essentially, this miscalculation, putting the thumb on the scale, reduces the purported impact of animal agriculture on the climate. So I urge you to go in there and check it out. And by the way, we want to give a shout out to PETA, who's matching the first $100 of contributions. So you can double your donation now at buy2020. That's a great website, buy2020.org, or directly on Facebook. So that's one of my favorite organizations. I've been involved with them pretty much from the very beginning, even before that. So this is one of our key campaigns in Jane Unchained that we are involved with, is really explaining that, well, look at this. Look at just the image there. Those are all chickens. What have we become as a species? And the truth is, there's just too many people on this planet, 7.8 billion humans, to feed 70 billion animals every year to in any kind or environmentally sensitive way. There's just no way to do that. So the acceleration of, the fact that we have so many more people on this planet, I read at one point that there are more than twice as many people on this planet as when I was in high school. Things have to change, and we have to transition to a plant-based world, and we've got to do it by 2026 to avoid a climate apocalypse. So that's one of the things that we're working on. I would urge everybody to get involved. Go to Climate Healers and just go to climatehealers.org and sign up. We have been doing our summits, our convergences online, but we hopefully will continue them in person. They're a lot of fun. We all drove out to Arizona and participated in small groups, breaking down all the issues that need to be resolved in order for us to create the infrastructure for a vegan world into small groups. And then we would debate things, and then we would come up with ideas, and then we'd get on stage and present them. It's really electrifying. And it's all outlined in my documentary, Countdown to Year Zero, which is on Amazon Prime. Watch it before it's too late. So watch Countdown to Year Zero, see if you want to get involved, and then get involved in climatehealers.org. And I'm going to go back to the website and see if we can show you a little bit more of what I am doing with the various projects that we have, because we have so many, it's almost impossible to keep track of them. And when I say Jane Unchained has a lot of projects, it's not just me. We are a team. We are citizen journalists, more than 70 citizen journalists around the world. Now, prior to COVID, we were going live with our cell phones. We have stabilizers, and we would go live. This is the biggest tool, the most important tool. I don't like to use the word weapon because that's sort of old thinking, but the most important tool you have to spread the word is right here. I worked in television, as I mentioned, for many years. And, of course, everybody wants to get their content on the networks. The networks. Well, what really is a network? A network is a fancy term for a production company with a distribution pipeline to an audience. Everybody who has a cell phone has a production company. You know that you can shoot great videos and photos, and they're getting more and more sophisticated. This one has 3 cameras in it, and you can get iMovie on here, and so you can edit it. You have a pipeline, which is hit send, upload to Facebook, and your audience is your Facebook audience. So I would urge everybody, get 5,000 friends, the limit, and share the content. If you do nothing but go to Jane Unchained, and I'm going to share a screen and go back to Jane Unchained for a second. Here, I'll go to our Facebook page, because our Facebook page is very, very active. All of our videos start on Facebook, and then we write stories about them. So if you check this out, you'll see that this was the story we did this morning, right before this broadcast. Is dairy farming cruel to cows? We basically deconstructed the New York Times article, and basically this was my opinion that I expressed, is that this is codependency on an industry. It's basically asking a question that even in its own article, it answers, yes, dairy farming is cruel to cows. And yet it kind of rationalizes it, justifies it, minimizes it, and otherwise provides a safety net for it. And that's the essence of codependency, where you're providing a safety net for behavior that shouldn't happen. And so we really just deconstructed that article, and I'm going to go and see so far. Let me see how many people.
A small group of animal welfare scientists is seeking to answer that question. Facing a growing anti-dairy movement, many farmers are altering their practices. What's your reaction? Erica Myers, president of Animal Outlook, you were quoted in the article. What's your reaction to the article?
You know, the article has really started a dialogue about what is happening on dairy farms. And you're right that the title of it on the online version is sort of self-answered. Is dairy farming cruel to cows? And our response is unequivocally yes. We have video footage that demonstrates it. There is a lot of other video footage of undercover investigations also demonstrating it. And the article itself outlines a lot of the undisputed claims of cruelty inherent in dairy farming. So, you know, the article does go on to talk about other types of dairy farming and examples of ways in which the industry is making some changes to address welfare concerns. So it's definitely started a really vital dialogue about what is happening to animals behind the closed doors of the dairy industry.
Well, here's what I saw that example. Here is a photo. Oh, doesn't that look loving? Oh, doesn't that look nice? But years of undercover investigation footage that I have seen shows this is the actual condition of dairy calves. This is the actual condition of dairy calves. This is the actual condition. So, you know, a picture for 1,000 words. When you show this, even though the words, some of the fine print, as it were, acknowledges the violence inflicted on these animals. And I'll quote from the New York Times article, some of their claims are beyond dispute. Dairy cows are repeatedly impregnated by artificial insemination and have their newborns taken away at birth. Female calves are confined to individual pens and have their horn buds destroyed when they are about 8 weeks old. The males are not so lucky. Wait, having your horn buds destroyed is lucky? The males are not so lucky. Soon after birth, they are trucked off to veal farms or cattle ranches where they end up as hamburger meat, or I might add, shot or left on dead piles. I've seen that with my own eyes. So when you answer your own question in the article, but you are still asking this question, to me, that's codependency. You know, what is codependency? When you justify, minimize, rationalize, and otherwise prop up something that is wrong.
All right, okay, so that gives you an idea of
why is the New York Times.
That gives you an idea of you know, what we did this morning. And by the way, Jane Unchained is a 501c3 nonprofit. So if you'd like to support our work, we do rely on donations. This is how we operate. We have no overhead. You're looking at world headquarters of Jane Unchained. This is my living room, and essentially, except for a few IT behind the scenes people, couple of them, we're all volunteer. I'm a volunteer. And our whole goal is to have the conversations that the mainstream media is not having. Okay. Advertiser-based mainstream media does not report objectively on these issues. They just don't. And so we have to hold them to account and also provide that alternative so that people can see the reality. And, you know, one of the things that's happening is there's a divergence. The younger generation, which doesn't spend time watching television, hardly, they're on their phones. And so they're seeing the videos. They're seeing the undercover videos. But another generation, the earlier generation, is still reading these sort of this pablum that justifies and rationalizes and puts the pretty pictures on a cruel industry. So it's something that we really have to constantly get the truth out about. And so that's one of our main goals. And you know, it's challenging. It's really challenging because every day I wake up to a dozen emails where people are frantic about some horror being inflicted on animals. We also, combat environmental challenges. Right now, yesterday, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife approved destroying the Bayona wetlands here in Marina del Rey, Playa del Rey area. We've been fighting that. This is LA's last coastal wetlands, home to 1,700 species. And some of them are endangered and threatened. To me, it's like they're all endangered and threatened, basically. And they just voted to bulldoze the whole thing. So we've been fighting that too. And the list is long of the things that we have to do. We also, we don't just cover the negative, we cover the positive. And I'll share my screen again to show, oh, honey, my doggie has been, my beautiful little doggie is older, and he's been at the hospital, and he's back, and he's feeling a little whiny, but he's right here on my lap, and I'm doing everything to take care of him as best I can. But if you go back to Jane Unchained, we also cover the positive side. So the positive side is, I'm going to scroll down a little bit because we've seen a lot of Tanya, but here is some recipes that we cover. So you can see here, vegan mac and cheese, it's healthy. We do a lot of recipes. And I'm going to direct your attention to the story to the right, which is this we covered last week. We do a lot of breaking news. I do the breaking news for the most part, but a lot of our contributors do breaking news. Meet the vegan activist who fooled Fox Business. Now, this one was hilarious, and basically Direct Action Everywhere, which is an animal rights organization, really considered, I think the meat and dairy industry considers DXE one of the top threats to their industry. Anyway, this guy decided to pose as the new president of Smithfield Foods, which is the largest pig killer in the world, which happens to be a Chinese-owned business now. Smithfield is owned by the Chinese. It's not an American company anymore. It was sold. He got on Fox Business and did a 6-minute interview with Maria Bartiromo, who was a nationally recognized TV anchor. And he condemned his own industry because he was posing as the CEO of Smithfield. He is not the CEO of Smithfield. And he basically at one point said, our industry is a petri dish for disease and future pandemics. And that should have raised her eyebrows, I would think, as a journalist. Oh my God, the head of an industry that is the biggest pig killer in the world is saying, we're a threat to humanity. We're a petri dish for disease and future pandemics. And she just brushes right past that. Yeah. But how can you assure Americans that their pork will be safe to eat? She doesn't want to know about that. And this, to me, highlights really the essence of the see no evil, hear no evil news media. Have you noticed that they don't talk about how to prevent the next pandemic? I've heard people say, we're going to have to be able to treat the next pandemic. Right. There are reports, if you poke around, there's a swine flu in China. There's also a bird flu in England. But they don't get a lot of coverage. So maybe I'll show this very quickly because I think that it's quite an interesting story that we did. Let me share the screen, and I will go back to it right now. Jane Unchained, and then we're going to go in here and jump in here for a second and show you this. So we also wrote an article. So here's the article that outlines the whole thing. But here we go.
Breaking news, Jane Unchained live with our media consultant, Simone Reyes, and the man at the center is the man who punked Fox Business today, making headlines globally.
This headline? Is that a different headline?
This is absolutely incredible. I literally was just leafing around. All of a sudden, I start seeing all these headlines. Absolutely incredible. And I'll just throw some up. Fox Business host Maria Bartiromo interviewing animal activists posing as Smithfield Foods CEO. Animal activist poses as Smithfield Foods CEO on Fox Business, trashes company to oblivious Maria Bartiromo. Fox Business anchor says she was punked on air by animal activists. What happened? How did you pull this off, Matt Johnson? How did you pose as the CEO of Smithfield Foods, the largest pig killer in the entire world?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Jane. Well, I mean, it's kind of a long process. I think myself and my friends who are kind of all animal rights activists themselves are, we're kind of obsessed with this stuff. And it's been, probably over a couple of years that we've sort of kind of been kicking around the possibility of something like this, having been aware of the yes men. That's kind of the spirit of what we're going for here. And so kind of thinking about doing something like that, looking for our opportunity. And then just here over the past week, it just kind of clicked in my head that this seemed like a good opportunity that, number one, Smithfield got this new CEO that people don't know. And he's like not on the record, or there's like hardly any videos. I couldn't find any videos of this guy. So it's like people don't really know this guy. And you have a sense of like what exactly this guy looks like. So maybe sort of kind of at a glance or something, I kind of could pass as him. And also just with Christmas, we were thinking with the holidays, like maybe the normal people that are doing the vetting won't be around as much. So you get somebody who's newer, who isn't as capable of sniffing something like this out. And so gave it a shot, and it involved some fake phone numbers and some fake emails, and sending lots of pitches around, and they worked.
Okay, let's play a little clip. This is truly extraordinary. This is Fox Business, national cable television. This guy does a 6-minute interview as the CEO of the world's largest pig killer.
Unfortunately been insufficient in many instances. These folks have been through a lot. Frankly, we might bear some responsibility for that, but we know that our Smithfield family is dedicated and resilient, and the better times are ahead. And if I may add quickly, as the new CEO and president of Smithfield, I'm personally promised that we're going to do better. And the first change under my leadership is transparency and at times brutal honesty. And the truth is that our industry, in addition to the outbreaks that are happening at our plants, our industry poses a serious threat in effectively bringing on the next pandemic. With CDC data showing that 3 or 4 infectious diseases come from animals, and the conditions inside of our farms can sometimes be petri dishes for new diseases. Hog farming also causes immense harm to our air and waterways.
Dennis, that's what I want to ask you about. Dennis, because Smithfield Foods is the world's largest pork producer. You are in an incredible, an incredible spot to have incredible impact in the United States and across the world. But China acquired Smithfield. Your parent company is now based in Hong Kong. Can you tell us how it works? There was a post recently about the way your company operates. Are the hogs raised in the United States and then sent to China to get slaughtered and produced and packaged?
Yeah, well, Smithfield Foods is owned by a Chinese conglomerate, and the pigs are they're slaughtered in the U.S. and we have an export market, which we think is
all right. We'll have to get rid of that.
A very necessary part of the thriving economy to have open trade.
We were doing so well.
So there's been some leveling off of demand that we've seen.
Can you kill that?
In China.
Oh, I guess you
there
can.
Was an African swine fever outbreak that happened, or a round of them really, where there was greater demand, and now they're
Dennis, I was told that in China, there was this African swine flu that affected so many pigs that there were a million pigs in the river dead. They didn't know where to get rid of the pigs that were dead. And then other sources were saying, well, you can't get sick even if the pig had African swine flu if the pig was dead. So they cut up the meat as well. How are Americans going to believe that the meat is safe if they're going to China to get slaughtered and packaged? What kind of processing securities do you have in place to assure Americans that their pork is safe?
Right. Stop sharing. Okay, there we go.
Listen, that's what. Okay, first of all, I want to give you props for getting in all these points. You talked about the next pandemic could be from animal agriculture, something that mainstream media should be talking about and studiously avoids ever. They talk about how we're going to treat the next pandemic, but they don't talk about how we're going to avoid it. You also
here we go. Hallelujah. Okay. All right, we're back. That was interesting. Too many windows open. But there you see, you just saw that. And listen, I invite Maria Bartiromo, Fox Business, Smithfield on to Jane Unchained at any time. We'd love to dialogue with them. But when the purported head of a company says we're a petri dish for future pandemics, you think that, wow, that's a breaking news story because our entire world is being destroyed by pandemics right now. Wow, tell me more. No. Mainstream media does not want to know more about that. So, okay, honey. All right, honey. Okay, baby. So that's part of the problem. And my doggy is saying he wants to go out. Well, yes, I know you do, honey. But this is what we expose at Jane Unchained, and we work very hard to do it. And it's not that easy because we've got to do a lot of research. We've got to accumulate the videos, and we've got to set up the interviews. So here we go. We got them back on my lap. So those are just some of the things that we accomplish and we work at every day. And let me end on a very positive note. And the positive note is that things are changing. They are changing rapidly. I talked to Dr. Rao at the start of the pandemic, and of course we commiserated over all the suffering and the tragedies that are compounded every day. So many people losing their lives, losing their loved ones, losing their jobs. The world at times seems to be collapsing in on itself. And a couple of points. One is that it's a zoonotic illness. And even the New York Times wrote an article saying, our cruel treatment of the natural world and the animals in it has brought us to this point. That was an op-ed. And so he said, this is an intervention from Mother Nature, telling the human race, go to your rooms, think about how you're behaving, come out more evolved, or the consequences are dire. And I surely hope that the human race is now thinking about how to live a kinder, more compassionate, and smarter life. It's just smart to eat foods that are going to give you energy, lower your cholesterol, and avoid, for example, processed meat, which is officially cancer-causing according to the World Health Organization. So I think a lot of that's happening. We see the plant-based food space exploding in the supermarket arena, shooting up by huge percentages. Of course, the year before last, or last year, 2019, we saw the Beyond Meat IPO that was hugely successful. We're going to have more plant-based IPOs coming up that are going to be very, very exciting, that are really going to put meat alternatives, plant-based, on the map. And what we really need to do is double down, because we have the momentum. Right now, we have the momentum, but it's the swing of the pendulum. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, and we need to double down. So for all of you who are watching, and I don't care if it's 3 people, if I convince one person to get more active and to do something, that could be the thing that makes the difference. We hear a lot about the tipping point. Are we at the tipping point? Are we before the tipping point? Has the tipping point already occurred? Probably we'll never know until we look back in retrospect and say, aha, that was the moment. But definitely the pandemic, and I know personally people who have suffered immeasurably as a result of the pandemic, and my heart goes out to them. And I wish there was no pandemic, of course, just like everybody. But in this crisis, we have to find a way to use it to save ourselves and to avoid the next pandemic and to reverse climate change and to improve human health. And all of that comes with a plant-based lifestyle. That's why Vegan World 2026 is so important. That's why when he said it, it really blew my mind, because until you can really articulate your vision, how can you hope to achieve it? It reminds me of the women who ended the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And to summarize and simplify a much more complicated story, a child was killed on a front yard and some women came out and said, enough, we're going to stop the Troubles, enough with the killing. And everybody laughed at them and said, oh, you can't do that. But once they articulated that vision that might have seemed grandiose to some, they were able to then start working toward it. And they ultimately won a Nobel Peace Prize. So the hardest step, to use an old cliche, on a 1,000-mile journey is the first. And in this sense, I think articulating our vision, we want a vegan world. We want it right away, but we must have it by 2026 and to avoid a climate apocalypse. And we just need to know how. And the way we do it is every single vegan getting together and giving it their all. I do not take days off because the animals suffering in factory farms and laboratories don't get a day off. We do a lunch break live. And when I say we, our team, we have an incredible booker, Paige Parsons-Roach, who works with us. We have Joshua Awesome, who's our IT guy who works with us. We have Sarah C. I don't want to mention names because once I do, I always get in trouble because there's literally like 70 people, and all of them, I just mentioned the people who work as a regular schedule, but there's literally so many heroes, that people who give their time doing shows, interviewing doctors. We're doing the PCRM 21-day kickstart every day at 12:30 p.m. Pacific, starting January 1st, which is tomorrow. Lisa Carlin's running that. We have so many people who are giving their all to get the word out. So again, I always regret anytime I mention one name, I'm like, oh my God, and I forgot this one and this one and this one and this one. They're all heroes and they're all giving of their time voluntarily. And so you can watch our shows. Basically when the pandemic hit, because we used to have like dozens of videos of protests and marches and vigils. We work very closely with the Save movement. Anita Krines is the founder of that out of Toronto. She's another person who's a visionary and my hero. And she's a PhD, and she's the woman who was walking her dog, saw a truck filled with pigs going to slaughter. She made eye contact with a pig. And because she's a student of Tolstoy, and Tolstoy said, when you see suffering, you have a moral obligation not to turn away, but to get closer, see if you can help. And even if you can't help, to bear witness. And she made a commitment to that pig. And she said, I will bear witness to your fellows. Even though I can't get you out of the trucks, I can bear witness. And she started the Save movement, where people go to slaughterhouses. Right here, we go to Smithfield Slaughterhouse right near downtown LA and bear witness to the truck after truck after truck after truck filled with pigs coming in to be slaughtered. Pigs who, sorry, Cabo, are smarter than dogs. And she's somebody we work very closely with, and her entire movement. so there are so many movements that are cropping up that are so powerful. DXC, the Save movement, Anonymous for the Voiceless, the Cubes of Truth. When I went to Europe, I don't even remember when it was last year, to speak at the Animal Rights Conference in Luxembourg, and I went to Denmark first. I immediately went to an anti-dairy protest, a major anti-dairy protest outside a dairy festival. And then the guy said to me, one of the guys holding a giant sign, he said, there's a Cube of Truth going on the main square in Copenhagen. So I went right to the Cube of Truth, and there I was filming the Cube of Truth going live in the center of Copenhagen. And I started interviewing this very articulate young man. And I said, wow, you're like you have so much leadership quality. And he's like, I'm the founder or the president of of Denmark's either vegan or animal rights party, but I think it was the vegan party. And so this is a global movement everywhere you turn. And yes, we've had to change our strategies during COVID. For example, as soon as COVID hit, and I've buried the lead here. I'm going to talk a little bit about our TV show. But as soon as COVID hit and we realized that people should not go to protests and demonstrations and risk their safety, and we put it right on our website, do not do anything to risk your safety, safety first. We decided to use a technology called StreamYard, which is a studio basically in your laptop, and gave some of our top contributors their own shows. So now we have like a dozen people doing their own shows. We have an attorney, Carissa Krantz, doing her own show on veganism and the law. We have Naja Wright, who's the head of the Maryland Black Vegan Society, doing a show, which is incredible. We have a show focusing on doctors. I don't want to leave anybody out. We have Lindsay Baker doing an incredible animal rescue hour. There's so many people doing incredible shows that focus on different aspects of veganism, and then we turn them into stories whenever possible. So the final thing I want to talk about, we're almost out of time, is Jane and Shane's cooking show on Amazon Prime. So our daily vegan cooking show, okay, baby, it's okay, honey. What's the matter, honey? Our daily vegan cooking show, Lunch Break Live, which we've never missed a day. It's happening today. It happens New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Christmas Day, Easter, every holiday, 4th of July. We do not miss a day. And our point is that the animals don't get a holiday from suffering, so we have to continue offering those alternatives. And so it evolved into a cooking show on Amazon Prime. And very delighted to work with an incredible, multiple Emmy award-winning producer, Eamon McChrystal of Inspired. And we got a sound stage, and we did a cooking show that is really, I think, the first of its kind in a big sound stage with multiple cameras, and it's a vegan cooking show. And our first season was so successful, Amazon's Prime Video expanded it, not just the United States and UK, which is great, but also Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. So it's essentially in the entire English-speaking world. And then we did a second season when COVID hit, because we were already sort of in production when COVID hit. And then we were like, well, what do we do? Oh my gosh. So we immediately pivoted, and we found out that Maggie Baird, who's superstar Billie Eilish's mom, who's an incredible, they're a vegan family, and Maggie Baird is not only an incredible actress and artist and singer in her own right, but she's also an animal activist and a vegan. She had this great campaign that she came up with. I don't know how she did it so fast, right at the start of COVID, where it's called Support and Feed. So she raises money through donations. They give that money to vegan restaurants, so the vegan restaurants can stay open. And the vegan restaurants make food that Support and Feed then picks up and delivers to houseless people, people who are hungry, senior citizens, kids, first responders, doctors, nurses, paramedics. And so we hooked up with her. We got together with her. We did an entire season called the Support and Feed Edition, which is also on Amazon Prime. And I urge you guys to go to Amazon Prime and check it out. Now, maybe I'll do one last screen share. It's a little dangerous because, you know, you never know what's going to happen with this screen share. But let me go to here, see if I could find it. There we go. Well, I'm going to go back to that story and then I'm going to reverse. Okay, so we'll go back here and we'll go to.
Hi, everybody. It's Christy, board president at Uplands Peak Sanctuary, tuning in live from Freedom, Indiana. I have to give Jane Velez Mitchell an incredible thank you. We had a little technical challenge at the very end of her segment. As a vegan and animal rights activist, Jane is someone I've looked up to for a long time. So what an honor to have her part of our New Year's Eve telethon today. And I want to thank PETA for matching the first $100 of donations coming in through that segment. Now, what is important about today besides celebrating hope and sanctuary and a vegan world and art and eating and lots of joyfulness? Clearly, I'm inspired by a new year, as you can tell by my glasses here. We are here to help support Uplands Peak Sanctuary, which is run completely 100% on your donations. So our goal today is to try to achieve $10,000 to help our residents, our 50 residents who rely on us for medical care, food, shelter, enrichment, kindness to get us into this next year. We really need your support. I'm here tuning in from the main house. We've got the cows in our pasture, vegan, Zeke Wilson, Frida, and Star. Behind me, I've got our Martin and Moon's coop, taking it nice and cozy in their coop today because it is a brisk day out here in Freedom. But our hearts are on fire to meet our goal today of $10,000. I want to take just a second before we move on to our next segment to show you our thermometer. You guys stay with me for a second. Some of you may have seen this morning. Oh. Okay, look at this incredible art from our team member Amelia from Stinky Studio in Bloomington, Indiana. You can see our goal of $10,000 right now. We are at $12.50 for donations coming through directly from the telethon. We're not able to calculate what's come through directly on Facebook because we know we're getting support on Facebook from donations there. But guys, help us fill this thermometer. Let's get up to Paul the cat up here on top, who's already ready to ring in the new year at 10,000. I've been so excited today to share this experience with our incredible hosts. The camera being patient for a moment. Thank you. And I just wanted to introduce with a lot of excitement Colin McCullough of Colin Cooks Vegan, which I certainly love all things vegan to eat, with healthy and decadent desserts for us to enjoy. So stay tuned while we welcome Colin, and we'll continue on with an awesome day. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everybody. I just want to adjust the screen here. So I'm Colin McCullough, and I'm broadcasting live from Portland, Maine today. And so happy to be here as part of the telethon, raising money for Uplands Peak Farmed Animal Sanctuary and support the work that they do. And so for the cooking class that I'm going to do today, we're going to be making a couple of different decadent desserts. So I have put the recipes, just so you know, I put the recipes on my Facebook page. If you go to colincooksvegan.com, it's COLIN, colincooksvegan.com, or that's the website. If on Facebook, Colin Cooks Vegan, if you look that up, then you'll find the recipes for today, plus a bonus recipe, depending on how much time we have. I threw in a third one, but there's going to be two that we're going to be doing today. So I've been vegan for 25 years. And in that time, I've gone to a lot of different farmed animal sanctuaries across the country. And I have two boys who are now 18 and 21. And so, you know, it was always really great to be able to bring my kids to be able to see, visit with some of the animals at the different farm sanctuaries. You know, being in Portland, it's a bit of a drive for me to come out to Indiana, but I wish I'm with you in spirit for today. But you know, if you haven't been to a farmed animal sanctuary, if you haven't been to Peaks, then I definitely urge you to pay a visit. You know, when we're all able to travel and when it's safe to be able to do that. You know, my kids certainly who have grown up vegan. You know, for them to be able to see meet the animals in person, you know, with their own eyes. And, you know, get to enjoy, you know, spending time with the animals and visiting, you know, with the, turkeys and pigs and sheep and cows and, you know, all kinds of different animals. It's such a rewarding experience, especially I know my kids really enjoyed that very much. So definitely would recommend that. You know, please support organizations, you know, certainly like Uplands Peak Sanctuary. I believe they just turned 7 years old. You know, if we all had big buckets of money to be able to operate on, that would be wonderful. But you know, I'm sure that Peaks would greatly appreciate your financial support. So I know the information is in here also, but buy2020.org to be able to donate for them. So, like I said, I've been vegan for 25 years. I've written a few different cookbooks. We have the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, which is available on Amazon there. So this came out last year, and there's about 200 different recipes in the book. And the recipes that we're going to be doing today for the cooking demonstration are in the book. So there's that, and then just for fun, there's also smoothies that taste like Girl Scout cookies, and that came out just last month, and that is available on Amazon as well. Both of these are available in print and in the ebook versions as well, so you have those. So, you know, basically for the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, you know, my approach, not only, you know, as a vegan, but you know, my approach is trying to use whole food, you know, plant-based ingredients as much as possible. I don't really eat a lot of processed foods. I don't really have any sugar. I don't use very much salt, and I don't really use any oil. So that's kind of the approach of the cookbook. I teach a lot of cooking classes throughout New England, and, you know, during this time, I've been doing a lot of online cooking classes as well, you know, for different libraries. What I really found was, you know, as a vegan, you know, having been vegan for a long time, you know, so many of us, we do a great job of advocacy and trying to convince other people to be vegan. But, you know, so much of the time people will say, okay, I understand the message, but what do I eat? And I don't want to eat, you know, salad all day. So, you know, what is it? How do you be vegan? How do you do that? So, you know, I teach vegan cooking classes as an advocacy, as my way of doing advocacy, to try and help show people. And so ultimately, when I teach at libraries, when I teach different classes online, usually most of the people who come to the classes are not vegetarian or vegan. They're just really interested in learning healthier recipes, and that kind of gets their foot in the door. And then people will ask me questions about veganism, and that's kind of my opportunity to be able to talk about it and also talk about my own experience and what brought me in. Certainly concern for animal welfare was a really big part of it starting out. And then to be able to eat so much delicious food, really, I tell people in my classes, if you're eating healthy food, if like you make that green smoothie or the green juice, and you have to like plug your nose in order to get it down, it might be really healthy, but if you have to plug your nose to get it down, then it's the wrong recipe. There's so many great healthy recipes that you can make that taste really good. And so these recipes that we're going to do today, these are a couple of different dessert recipes that I have in the Healthy Vegan Cookbook. And really the idea with these, especially with my boys growing up, it's one thing for me to try and eat healthy, but trying to get my kids to try and eat healthy and unprocessed food, like any kids, it could be challenging sometimes. So when I had different recipes that used a lot of really healthy ingredients, and they asked for seconds and thirds, then I knew I had a great formula to start there. So all right. So the first recipe we're going to do for today is going to be orange chocolate energy bites. And this one is actually my kid's favorite recipe. When my older son went to college a couple of years ago, then, one of the first things he said when he got there was, "Can you please make me a batch of these and send them in the mail so I have these?" So happy to do that. These ones, he actually says they taste like orange Tootsie Rolls. So they both just love them. So what I do with this recipe, and then with the one that we're going to do after this, is I usually make a batch or a double batch, and then I will put them in the freezer, roll them into ball shapes, which we'll see. I put them in a Ziploc bag in the freezer, and then anytime, as soon as they come walking through the door, usually they say, "I'm hungry, can I eat?" So, to be able to give them something that is really healthy that way, for a dessert, for a snack. You can even, these are all healthy whole food recipes. So these are things that you can even have for breakfast if you want. So it's a lot of similar ingredients to what you would use in a smoothie even. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first one. And also I just want to show, this is the food processor I have here. This is a Cuisinart. I have a 14-cup Cuisinart. I think it's really important, if you're going to have a food processor and use that, that you get a really large capacity food processor, because otherwise you would have to make things in like half batches. And, if you have a small food processor, then it kind of, it just takes a while, takes more effort. If you have a really big food processor, then you can just put it all in there and you're good to go. So let's see, I'm going to go through the ingredients, and like I said, the recipes are all printed, are all on my Facebook page, Colin Cooks Vegan, so you'll find them there as well. All right. So first one we're going to do is I'm going to add 2 cups of medjool dates, which turns out to about 16 medjool dates here. So I really like to use medjool dates as my form of sweetener. So like I said, I don't really use sugar. I don't really like to use things like agave nectar, maple syrup, obviously honey, things like that. Those are all really processed forms of sugar, whereas the medjool dates are a whole food form of sweetener. So you have all of the fiber from the dates, and that really helps to slow down the absorption of the sugar that's in the dates. The natural sugar slows down the absorption of that into your body, so you don't really get the sugar rushes. All right, so I usually get these from Trader Joe's. I have one close by me. So, but regular supermarkets, they usually have either the medjool dates or the Deglet Noir dates, which are smaller. So you may have to use a few more than 16 if you have that kind. But just make sure that you take the pits out, because food processor is just going to break those pits down into small bits, and then you're going to break your teeth trying to eat these, and you don't want to do that. So there's the 16 dates I'm going to put in there. And the next, I'm going to put in 1.5 cups of raw cashews here. So between the dates and the cashews, if you're someone who really pays attention to calories or fat, then you might say that's a lot. In this recipe, the way that I design my recipes is to be very rich. So, my kids who would, open up a pack of Oreos and, plow through the whole thing or something like that, you really only are going to eat like maybe 2 or 3 of these because they're so rich. These just aren't the kind of thing that you're going to just, plow through the whole thing. You have 2 or 3, they're very dense, they're very rich, very strong tasting. And that's all you're going to want. You're going to enjoy the 2 or 3, and then you don't want to have a whole bunch of them. So it's not dangerous that way, like Oreos can be, I suppose. 3/4 cup of raisins next. Add that in. And I'm going to put in 1/4 cup of cacao powder next. So here we go. So cacao powder is very similar to cocoa powder. It's just the more raw, less processed version. And if you don't have cacao powder, you can just use cocoa powder. That's fine. It's not really going to change the taste that much. It's just, when people say that that chocolate is good for you, it's true in a way. It's the cacao that is in chocolate is actually really rich, full of antioxidants and nutrients. And so that is very good for you. And then, you take sugar and you take fat and add it to that. And then you make chocolate, and maybe that's not quite as healthy, but the idea behind it is the cacao is actually considered a nutrient superfood. So I'll put that in there. And, something like this, my kids, they will, they really enjoy it, and they'll say, I don't care, what's in it. I don't need to know. I just know that I really like it. So, all right. All right. And the next ingredient is going to be a teaspoon of orange extract. And so that just kind of boosts up the orange flavor a little bit more. This one's really optional. The recipe also includes zest of 1 orange, which is going to give it a really nice, natural, strong flavor. But if you want to just kind of punch it up a little bit more, then you can use the orange extract. This is the Flavor Organics kind. I get this from Whole Foods, but you can order that online pretty easily if you want. So add that, and then I'm going to put in with this one half a cup of hemp seeds. So a whole bunch of superfoods all put together into this. Hemp seeds, I usually like to use some seeds in lots of the different recipes that I do, whether it's smoothies or desserts. So I'm going to put in half a cup of hemp seeds here, and those also I get from Trader Joe's, but you should be able to order those online easily enough if you can't find them in your local supermarket. They are becoming more popular, so hopefully you'll be able to find those in a supermarket. But you can order them online, and they last a long time. Just keep them in the fridge. All right, next thing we're going to do is the zest of 1 orange. So this is a microfine planer. This works really well for zesting rather than using that little small handheld one that, you're sitting here all day doing this. So one thing I want to point out is anytime that you're using the zest of a fruit, citrus fruit, like the orange, you definitely want to make sure in this case that you get organic, because that's where a lot of the pesticides like to hide out, is in the peel itself. So especially in this case, you want to make sure you get organic. So just gonna quickly go over here. I always kind of make the joke that the microfine planer is great, but it doesn't really know the difference between your fingers and the fruit. So just want to be pretty careful. And also the microfine planer, it's pretty sharp, and so you just want to, really the idea is to just take off the very top layer of the citrus. You don't really want to dig into it too much and get through into the white part, because that's where the pith is. It's kind of more bitter, so you want to avoid that. This one, I am going to make an orange smoothie, chocolate orange smoothie for myself tomorrow, so I will leave that one out. And then the last ingredient here is espresso powder. So this one is a totally optional ingredient, but espresso powder, you just use a little bit, really about 1/4 of a teaspoon at the most. And it's basically just like one espresso bean worth there. I ordered this from Amazon. This is the King Arthur flour brand. And I keep this in the refrigerator. So espresso powder, it's sort of like the baker's secret. If you use it in different chocolate recipes, then if you add just a little bit, it really, you don't taste the espresso. It just kind of makes the chocolate come out richer. So that's a fun thing for different recipes where you use cacao or chocolate. Then a little espresso powder is great. So I will go ahead and run the food processor for a minute. One of the great things about teaching classes online is this is the loud part, so you can mute the screen or turn it down just for a little bit. But I just need to run this for about a minute or two. So basically, I just want it to be able to clump together enough so that everything's really well mixed together and I can roll it into a ball shape. So I'll go ahead and get started with that. All right, so I'm just going to take the top off and take a look here, make sure everything's blending up really well. So I'm just going to run it for another minute. Basically, what's happening is the nuts really start to break down, the cashews really start to break down, the oil that's in the cashews starts to liquefy, and also the raisins and the dates really break down and chop up so that everything really starts to kind of stick together. So I'll go ahead and run it a little bit longer. Right. Sorry, I know it's not terribly exciting to sit here and watch the food processor, but I just need run it a little bit longer. You know, I always like to say, you know, one of the benefits of doing these classes online is, you know, I have everything measured out, so you don't have to sit there and watch me measure, but then you do have to kind of watch this part of it. So just a little bit longer. So if you run it long enough, it actually starts to all stick together and go around as one big piece, and that's really when you know that it's ready. This will work now. This is sticky enough. So I'm basically just gonna break off a piece. You can see that here. Trying to get it in the light, and then I'm gonna roll it into a ball shape. It's gonna be about like a golf ball size or so, about 1 inch. So I'll show you that there. So like I said, this really tastes like a chocolate, tastes like an orange flavored Tootsie Roll. So good. And so I'll roll all of these up and then I'll put them in a Ziploc bag. I put that in the freezer and then that will keep. And, you know, people ask me how long they last in the freezer. I don't know because my kids come in and they're gone. But, you know, they should last for months in the refrigerator. Also, I have a great friend who is he spends a lot of time outdoors. He loves to hike, and he tells me that these are like the perfect energy bite to bring along, on a hike going up the mountain. And he has some of these along the way and gives him lots of energy. So that's great, and it tastes like a Tootsie Roll. So back to the idea that you don't have to eat stuff and plug your nose just because it's healthy. Something like this is a great example. When people hear that I'm vegan, people have said to me, like, what do you eat, like nuts and seeds all day? Yes, this in this version that tastes like a delicious dessert. You saw what goes into it. It's a lot of nuts and seeds and some dates and different flavorings. So, sometimes people will say to me in classes that I do, when people say that usually, trying to eat healthy, sometimes it feels like a sacrifice because you're, giving up really delicious food that you're used to. But, when I do these dessert classes and I hand out the samples and I tell people, ask people how they like it, and people will say, more sacrifice, please. This tastes great. So it doesn't have to be a burden to eat something just because it's healthy. So I used to have a friend of mine used to make green smoothies all the time, and he offered me some to try, and it was just repulsive, tasted terrible. And he told me all the great, delicious things or the healthy things in it, but I said, I don't want to have to plug my nose. I don't want to have to like drink something that tastes like liquid lawn for breakfast. So that was one of the things from the cookbook when I wrote it was, I wanted to be able to give people different recipes that tasted really good, but that were really super healthy for you, but also really convenient, because I don't have, I cook most of my food from scratch, but I don't really have 3 hours a day to spend in the kitchen. Really some of what's behind the recipes is, letting the appliances do all the work for you. You see the Vitamix in the background, food processor. I use the air fryer a lot. I use the Instant Pot pressure cooker a lot. So all of those appliances, you're just cutting things up and putting it in, let those do the rest. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next recipe, which is going to be coconut mojito energy bites. This is a popular one with my friends. I bring to parties when I have been able to go to parties in the past. Of course, not too many parties these days, hopefully. So these ones you can make and enjoy all for yourself or with your family. So this is going to be a half a cup of large coconut flakes here. You can use finely shredded coconut if you want instead, but I like the texture that this gives with the larger coconut shreds, so I'll add that in there. I'm going to put in half a cup of cashews in this one as well. Cashews are really great in a lot of these different recipes. One of the things I like is they're a very soft nut, so they really do blend in very well. If you don't have a powerful food processor, cashews are really good. You can soak them, make them even softer. And also, cashews don't really have a strong taste. So they just kind of blend in the background and you don't really taste them. So I'm going to put the cashews in here. There's half a cup. And I'm going to put, of course, some dates in this one. It's about a cup, which is about 8 of the medjool dates. I'll put those in. And again, make sure those are pitted. I'm going to put in 1/4 cup of fresh mint leaves here. So I just wash those, put those in. It's a really good idea to make sure you wash the mint. A lot of times there's some dirt that comes in on mint. So the next thing I'm going to add is the zest of 1 lime. So again, just want to point out, make sure you use organic or try to, if you can, find some organic lime in this case, just to make sure that there's no pesticides on it. So I'm just going to zest this. The zest itself adds such a great flavor beyond what you're going to get just from the juice of the lemon. Of course, the zest is where the essential oils are. So get the health benefits of that as well. And then I'm going to cut the lime in half. And since limes don't have seeds, then you can just squeeze the juice in here. Go. And I might make a double batch of this later on. And then I can use both halves of the lime here. So I never like to throw stuff out if I don't have to. All right, so there's the lime. And next ingredient, I'm just going to reach around here and grab that. This is coconut manna. So this is not this is more of an optional ingredient, but coconut manna, it's basically just pureed coconut. So, you know, where you have, in the store, you have all kinds of different forms of like coconut oil and you know, coconut cream and all of that. Those are all really just kind of processed versions of something that by itself is really healthy, but the more you process it and refine it, then it really becomes a lot less healthy. So coconut manna, just pureed coconut, nothing extracted. You keep all of the fiber and everything. And so this is what I like to use. It gives it a really nice coconut taste as well. So this is a Nativa brand. I get this usually at Whole Foods. So, you know, and they're shelf stable. So I'll usually get, you know, 3 jars of this, and then I'll just have it on my shelf and I can use it whenever I need to. So there's 2 tablespoons. I'm going to put in here. All right, do one more. You can also make your own coconut manna. Really, all you need to do is put it in the food processor, put coconut shreds in a food processor, and you just blend it and blend it and blend it. You know, you keep scraping it down, blend it and blend it and blend it some more. I usually just buy it, you know, because it's really to make your own coconut manna. You have to keep stopping and starting it constantly, and for me, it's time consuming, and I'd rather just buy it. But that is an option for you. A few more ingredients I'm going to use. This is what I like to use for salt, Redmond real salt. So this actually has the highest nutrient content of almost any salt on the market. So if you are going to use some salt, then this is a really great brand. What I like to use. And again, this is I get this at Whole Foods, but you can usually you can find it easily online as well. So really just a 1/4 teaspoon, just to kind of boost up the flavors that are there, but you're not actually tasting the salt. All right, so I'll put that away. And then the last thing is a 1/4 teaspoon of mint extract. So this is the Frontier Co-op peppermint flavor. Again, this one's kind of optional. This just it helps to boost up the mint flavor just a little bit more, make it even stronger. So I'm going to put that in there. That's a little bit of peppermint flavor. And, you know, people in the cooking classes that I do, when I make this recipe, people say, you know, where's the alcohol? If this is a coconut mojito, then when do you add the alcohol in? And I always say, you know, in your own kitchen, I can't control what you're putting into it. So if you wanted to add some, then you can go ahead and do that. I don't think this needs it. I think it tastes great. You know, the flavors of the lemon and the coconut and the lime together, or the lime, the mint and the coconut together. It's such a great combination. It tastes so good. And also when you're blending this up, you know, then the mint is releasing all of the essential oils, and then also the lime as well from the zest. It smells amazing. So I'm just going to run this for a minute. And this one is good to kind of scrape the sides down a little bit, mix it up, make sure everything's getting blended well together. It already smells fantastic. just want to get, really it's just breaking that the dates down so you don't have little pieces of date in there. Make sure everything's mixed together well. This is a great recipe to double if you have the large capacity food processor. If you have the space to be able to do that, then you can just double the recipe and then you get twice as much mileage out of it. So I'll show you what that looks like here. So you have the mixture just here. I'll put it in the light here. So roll that into like I said, about a 1-inch ball shape, and so you have about like that. All right. So the next thing I'll do is I'll put this. There's some finely shredded coconut, and so I'll just kind of roll that around in the finely shredded coconut, and that coats it because it's nice and sticky. All right, so you're going to end up with coconut mojito energy bites there. One thing that I would like to point out is, you know, when they come out, they sort of look somewhat like a donut hole. And, you know, once we're able to go to parties again and we can get together, these are really great to bring to a party. People really love these, but definitely you want to make sure people know what this is, because if people are expecting donut hole, this is very different. Also, this is because of the lime, it has a very sweet and sour taste at the same time. So if people are not expecting that, then it's kind of an unusual taste. And like I said, it's pretty strong. And put the mint extract in it, so it's going to be pretty strong. So just give some people some fair warning. But once people know what it is, then they're going to love it. So I'm going to go ahead and move this tray over. So, you know, when I teach classes, normally it's classes at libraries, and so I'm used to bringing all of my equipment to a library, kind of bring my kitchen to the library, and you know, doing it from home. This is my kitchen, so I don't have a studio. This is definitely not a studio kitchen, as you can see. This is where I make all my food, and I don't really have a very big space. But you know, even making 3 meals a day in a tiny space, you have the appliances. Have them do most of the work for you, and it's really it's much more convenient to me. So last thing, I guess we do have time for a bonus recipe, so I'm going to share that with you. This is a smoothie that tastes like dessert, but it is actually what I really like to have for breakfast. This is the Black Forest smoothie that is in the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, and this recipe actually, this was chosen as one of the top 10 smoothies, vegan smoothies in the world by Veg News magazine, which, you know, I tell my non-vegan friends, you may have never heard of it before if you're not a vegan, but if you are vegan, it's a big deal to win, to get that honor. It was amazing. I guess they got hundreds of submissions, so this is one of the ones that got in the top 10. So, you know, it's hard to go wrong with the combination of chocolate and cherries. It's such a delicious taste combination, and you know, it really tastes so much like dessert. And you know, I'll make this for classes and hand out samples, and people will say, you know, I see what went into it, I see how healthy it is, but it tastes so good, it can't be healthy. So one of the things for the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, one of the focuses of the book is breakfast smoothies that taste like dessert. So, you know, I used to, years ago, I used to just kind of take whatever fruit I had in the freezer or, you know, in the refrigerator, you know, just throw it in with some almond milk and just kind of blend everything together and make a smoothie that way. And, to me, that kind of got boring after a while. I really, started to write recipes that were really designed to taste like dessert. I kind of have a sweet tooth. So, to start my day with something that, tastes really delicious, but is also, full of healthy whole food ingredients, then, it's really a win-win. I'll make this. It makes about a quart here. So I'll just pour it into the mason jar and then just drink it slowly over the course of the morning. This isn't the kind of thing that you're going to, you don't want to guzzle it all at once. I'll show you the way that I like to make it is with a Vitamix or, a powerful blender, blending in the nuts with water first. And so basically you're making almond milk from scratch. And then that way you're not like straining out any of the pulp. You're getting all of the nutrients. That's really going to help you so much with satiety as well. It's going to keep you nice and full all morning and give you lots of energy. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that. This recipe, you don't need to have a Vitamix, but it really helps quite a bit. Vitamix really helps to blend things up so that they're really smooth and creamy. I'm not paid by Vitamix to say that, but believe me, I wish I was. So in this recipe, I am putting in, I'll put in about a quarter of a cup of raw almonds and then a quarter of a cup of rolled oats. So I have that already combined here. Most of the recipes that I make from the cookbook, I like to use raw as much as possible for the nuts. Whenever it's practical, I don't really like to use roasted or salted. If there's any salt, then I want to control how much I put in. So there's that. So in all of the smoothies in the cookbook, I have 30 different breakfast smoothies that taste like dessert. And that's really what I like to have for breakfast. Maybe on the weekend I'll have tofu scramble or something. But, I really like to have something that I can put in the mason jar, take it with me, and, I can just drink it all morning. I love to have fruit for breakfast, but it's really kind of, for me, being on the go so much, it's really kind of cumbersome to have to sit there and, peel everything. It's so much more convenient for me to put it into a smoothie form and just take it with me. So about 2 cups of water I'll put into that. And then what I do with most of the recipes here is I like to blend the water and the nuts first, and then I'll add the rest of the ingredients. That just kind of gives a chance for the almonds, especially because they are sort of a harder nut, it kind of gives the almonds a chance to really kind of break down. So I'm just going to run this for a minute, and then I'll go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients in. So it's really just a minute to help start to break it down. If you ever tried making almond milk fresh before, where you strain out the pulp and you have, what's left over, then it is so delicious. It tastes so good. It's really, what you can buy at the store doesn't really have a really strong almond taste, but this does. So, like I said, I like to leave the pulp in. I don't strain it out. I used to do that. I used to go through and make almond milk and then put it in the refrigerator. But, when you're making smoothies, then all that pulp is really where the nutrients are. So I like to keep that in. And that way I can skip the step of having to make the almond milk in advance and then put it in. It's certainly a much cheaper way to have almond milk than to buy it at the store. But, I like to joke and say I'm a really lazy cook. If I can just, do it in the moment instead of having to do, prepare things ahead of time, then it's so much easier for me. So, especially when I got kids and I'm on the go. So the next thing I'm going to add to this is half of a frozen banana, which I have here. So what I like to do is I'll buy a couple of bunches of bananas at a time and then wait until they are yellow with some brown spots. And then I'll take the peels off, break them in half, and I'll put them in a Ziploc bag, put them in the freezer. And then that way they are available for me to use whenever is convenient. And so you don't have to worry about the bananas getting too brown and going bad. Also, I'm going to add 1.5 cups of frozen cherries here. So, in the health world, that, fruit like cherries here, because they have a really dark color, they have a lot of nutrients, and it's very, very healthy. What I like to use, it's so much more convenient for me. Again, just use the frozen cherries. They're already pitted, and I just get these in the freezer section at any supermarket, really. And then we're going to add 4 medjool dates to that. So there's my little bit of extra sweetener. Some of my friends, they don't have such a sweet tooth. They don't really like it so sweet. So the dates is where you can adjust that. You can use 2, you can use 1. If some people say the banana is sweet enough, so, that's fine. That's what I like to put in. There's going to be 2 tablespoons of the cacao powder. So again, nutrient superfood. Add that in. That really gives it a great chocolate taste. And I'm going to put in a tablespoon of chia seeds. So I have those here. With a Vitamix, it's really going to blend up the chia seeds. It's not going to have little bits of chia in it. If you don't have a powerful blender, this might be something that if you want to use chia seeds for this, put it in a coffee grinder first, so that it's really down to the powder. But I always love to put like about a tablespoon of seeds in any of my smoothies, like chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds. They don't really have a very strong taste. They just kind of blend right in, and you get the nutritional benefit of having a tablespoon of seeds thrown in there. So next thing I'm going to add is a teaspoon of vanilla there. We'll pour that in. It gives it a great flavor. And then I'm going to put in about 1/2 teaspoon of almond flavoring as well. So this one is really more of an optional thing. You don't have to put that in, but really kind of boosts up like the cherry flavor of it. So pour in. That's about all I have left. So I'm gonna have to get a new bottle. This is the one smoothie of the 30 that are in the cookbook. This is one that I make, more than any of the rest of them. It's my favorite. And then there's 1/4 teaspoon of espresso powder again. So I'm going to add just a little bit there. Go. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and blend this up. So just going to blend it up for a minute just to kind of combine everything, and then that will be done. All right. Well, I will blend that a little bit longer, but unfortunately, I'm not able to pass this around and be able to share it with everybody. Wish that I could. I guess this is going to be breakfast for me tomorrow. So, sort of the downside of doing the cooking classes online is, not being able to share it with everybody so that you can actually get to taste it. But I know we're running low on time, so I'm just going to skip the rest of that for now. But I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Uplands Peak Sanctuary for having me. And again, just want to mention the buy2020.org to help support the great work that they do. They got 50 farmed animal residents, including cows, pigs, goats, turkeys, and chickens. And it's really such great work that the farm sanctuaries do. So please help support them. And thank you so much for having me for the class. And I just want to mention again, if these recipes sound good to you, there's a whole lot more. There's 200 recipes in here in the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, and that is available on Amazon. And then also smoothies that taste like Girl Scout cookies, all 10 of the Girl Scout cookie recipes using healthy whole food ingredients, similar to what we were just doing here. And also, like I said, you can find me on Facebook, Colin Cooks Vegan, and also on my website, I teach a lot of classes, mostly in the New England area. And so there's a Google Calendar on there that shows the different classes where I'm going to be teaching. Most of them are for libraries, and usually that's free. So you can just go there and find where the classes are. I teach a lot of different classes on, smoothies and desserts and soups and sauces and all kinds of different things. So if you're interested, you can find out more there. And like I said, all those classes are free. And, like I said, I really like to teach cooking classes as a form of vegan advocacy. In the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, I actually have a chapter that talks about how to do that. I definitely encourage other vegans who, are up for being in front of a group of people or, being online. If you love to cook and you want to, share some of your skills, some of your recipes, some of your ideas, libraries especially are always looking for new speakers and people who can do that. And, it gives us such a great voice to be able to do that. So in the book, I talk about basically how I've done it over the last 4 years, and, connecting with different vegetarian groups, and they help promote it too with the classes. So, it turns out to be a kind of a win for everybody. So just wanted to share that as well. So thanks so much, and I will hopefully see you again.